Hello and welcome to the channel. This is the beginning of the world's cheapest legacy GT Spec B part 2. So I've just got most of the plasti dip off. To get it off I used WD-40 and then for the most part it just wiped off, but it's all off the side trim. The emblems, they're still super dirty because I've got to now pressure wash it to get all the debris off, but I still have this little emblem to do. And then what I was gonna do before I go drive it to the car wash is give her a little vacuum. She's got some winter debris in it. Otherwise it is really quite a clean interior. And it's pretty cool. It has the factory Subaru nav, which is quite rare for a 2007. Yeah, pretty neat. So I'm gonna give her a vacuum, probably bring you guys along for a test drive. I think I've come to the conclusion with the motor that I am ultimately gonna replace it. I just don't, trust the motor after having that much debris go through it from the bad turbo. I have found some nicer wheels to put on it, so these were his winter wheels. I wasn't willing to pay the extra money to get the original wheels because it was substantial. So those will be its summer wheels. Tire profile isn't 100%, so I'm probably going to get new tires for them, but these are JDM OEM Subaru wheel off of likely a Legacy, maybe a WRX in Japan, but yeah, not a wheel that was offered here. So they look good. They do fit over the big brakes, and all I got to do is get an appropriate size tire and it should look good. So here we are with my first impression, first drive of the Spec B since cleaning out the motor and replacing the turbo. It actually drives really nice. I've just developed a check engine light. Could possibly be from replacing the downpipe. Now I might be getting a rear O2 sensor code, or it could be an AVCS code if the solenoids are too dirty to function, or it's loosened up some more debris out of them. But again, ultimately, even though the engine works pretty good and the car drives pretty good, I just don't trust passing this car on with this engine only to have it, fail shortly after. So I am going to be replacing it. I'm going to be doing some mods at the same time, TGV deletes, air pump delete, and I will be taking it for a dyno tune as well, which should be exciting. Pressure wash went well. Most of the plasti dip came off from the spots I scrubbed, except for the one spot I didn't scrub. But that's it for now until I replace the motor and get the wheels on, and go from there. There's the dip off, looks much better. All down the side, looking good. Got it off my emblems. This was the one I didn't scrub, so I've still got to get that off. Gross. There she is after a little pressure wash. Yeah, it does drive really nice. Got lots of potential for sure. Alrighty, another update here. I scanned the car for the codes. It gave me a cylinder 3 misfire, which is actually the noisy side of the engine. To me it sounds like valve noise. It's not super loud, but again, I'm not going to sell this to someone just to disappoint them when the motor goes. So, well, it's still a good core to be rebuilt. I'd rather take this out and replace it. As promised, I didn't feel confident in the motor that was in the car, so I got another one. I'm going to be putting that in today. I also switched the wheels recently. The tires are a little too small for my liking, so I'm gonna take those off. I got some brand new tires to put on. When I do the motor swap, I'm gonna be doing an air pump delete and TGV delete. That is it as far as mods. I am gonna send it for a tune after that, and then yeah, kind of see what's next with the car. So, first step, pull the motor. All right, here we have the 255 out of the car. There we go. So Legacy Spec B has a 6-speed similar to the STIs. Pretty unique little cars. So our donor motor is a 32-bit JDM 205 single AVCS. So this is nearly identical to the motor I just pulled out, other than the displacement. So this motor doesn't necessarily just drop in for a variety of reasons. So what I'm gonna do here is strip this one down to long block form. I'll strip that one down to long block form. I'll show you the few differences, put it back together, and throw it in the car. We are back. We've got both the engines stripped down. In case you don't know, the manifold comes off in one piece. It's actually a lot less complicated probably than you think. So if you are doing this swap just to get your car back on the road, all you need to do at this point is remove your entire intake manifold. The only sensor that is often any different is the oil pressure sensor here. Reason being, this has a tab to connect, whereas the JDM one will actually have a little nut holding an eyelet on. The only other difference you'll notice is the crank vent. This one comes out in one, then it tees off, whereas the JDM one will come out and kind of branch out in two hoses a little bit lower. I'll show you the difference there in a sec. So I mean, at this point, you're essentially done with your USDM motor, and we'll move on to the JDM one here. Now, looking at the JDM 205 all stripped down, if you're leaving your air pump stuff, all the air pump stuff is the same. All this PCV routing, this coolant line, everything is all the same. And there's the little difference. So see the one spout and the second spout, and then they go down into there. So this is similar to an 08 WRX, whereas I'm putting this into a Legacy, so there are some slight differences. So all I have to do is take this off and replace it with the domestic one, and I'm good to go. Again, here, yeah, so that's what I was saying. This one's bolted on with a little eyelet. So if you wanted, you could wire it, but really it's about, 5 seconds just to replace this sensor with your other one and keep it all factory fresh. Every other sensor on the motor can be left as is. Don't forget to go through, remove all these banjo bolts, and make sure the screens are already out of them, because yeah, that's just a good thing to do. So at this point, if I wasn't doing the air pump delete, which when you do an air pump delete, you actually leave this valve. It's a barometric sensor. It's important for the function of the engine with respect to the ECU. People do sometimes saw them off just to get this little sensor, and they'll tuck it in somewhere with the harness. But just as well, you could remove all this hose and that and stuff, along with this guy, everything down there. You'll need block off plates, or you can make them. But I find it's easiest just to leave that right where it is. So let's say I was not doing an air pump delete. At this point, I would just put new gaskets on here and drop on my USDM intake manifold and put the motor in the car. So moving forward, I am doing TGV deletes, which I'm actually just going to use some Japanese ones that are already TGV less. And I'm also doing the air pump delete. This 205, commonly they come with like a TD04 or a TF035. I'm using the original VF46 from the Spec B onto this motor. So now I'm gonna do my deletes. When I do them, I mark all the cables that go to things that I'm gonna delete. Then what I do is bring them back as far as I can. I cut them, I cap them with watertight shrink tube, and then I tape them back into the harness to kind of give it a nice finish. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and drop my manifold on. I'll show you the motor once it's all back together, and then we'll put it in the car. Another slight difference I should mention, the EJ20Y, EJ20X, this, let's call it an 08 plus EJ205. They come factory with a cylinder 4 cooling mod, if you want to call it that. A lot of people argue that they don't, but they really do. So I mean, this is the pipe I removed. If you want, you can plug that back in to the outermost heater core line, and you've got yourself a nice little mod. We are back with the JDM motor all assembled. I got my oil sensor swapped over. I've got my TGV delete done. So this is just a factory JDM TGV delete that I took from another motor. I've cut all the wires, shrink tubed them, and taped them into the harness to keep it clean. There's my barometric sensor still in place. Got my super fancy air pump delete that's not available in stores. It's too high end. And now I'm ready to pick up the motor, put the clutch on the back. I've got my throwout bearing and stuff all set in there. At the same time, I've deleted the big gross HID crap here. I absolutely hate HIDs. Yeah, it makes me feel better to get them reverted back to stock. So now we're gonna drop this motor in and go from there. Alright guys, here we are with the JDM motor installed, running, warming up, just waiting for the thermostat to open, then I can let it cool down, check the coolant. Also, while I was doing the motor swap, I got new tires, a little bit more appropriate size for the Spec B. These are a JDM WRX wheel, pretty nice little wheel. They need to be like washed along with the whole car. So these tires are 245/45, which is a really nice, pokey profile. Well, I'd say that's it for this vid. I'm gonna finish my warm up here, take the car down, take it for a drive, and then it's sitting for quite a while until I get the tune done. And then after that, this car is gonna get given away. Whoa. So make sure you like and subscribe to follow up on that and to get your chance to own this car.